I got a hold of all of the election day returns for the Fort Walton Beach referenda that took place yesterday. So we had 6 things on the ballot over in the Camellia City. And Payne Walker, you're here with me to discuss. So how are you doing today, sir?
Doing great, thanks.
All right, so let's just hop right into it. The first result was not really a contested one. It was an official result that we've all seen if we've gone onto the Supervisor of Elections Office, but I figured we'd just cover it. Just a note for everybody, and I'll say this before we go through every single graphic. The quote in the yellow is basically what the referendum would have actually done to the best of my ability. We have the ballot language as well, so we can turn to that. But this one was pretty clear cut. Basically, should we have elections in November, local elections? Big win for having elections in November. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it was one that was supported by the council. It was supported by voters, and that was made clear by this quote. Both sides, I guess you could say, supported overwhelmingly moving the elections to November.
Yeah, and I've made a couple of maps just for our use. You can see here. Every precinct in the city of Fort Walton Beach very much agreed with this move. Not really very controversial at all. So we'll move on from this one to the start of the ones that might be a little bit more controversial, the ones that had legal challenges put up against them. If you'll remember, if you're joining us, this is these are the referenda that came up on the ballot that were taken in front of a court thanks to a lawsuit. That lawsuit produced a sort of an injunction. Everybody still had the opportunity to vote on these, but they are not going to be certified by the Supervisor of Elections until all of the litigation is finished. So the referendum number 2, the ballot language did not say remove filing fee cap $50. It was a little bit more generic, but this is frankly, for me to remember what each of these referenda do. And it passed, or it didn't pass, but it has a majority right now, 569 votes saying, yeah, let's go ahead and get rid of this filing fee cap, and no to that. But that's not what the ballot language said. So let's bring that in as well. Number 2 right here, nonpartisan city elections, stricter term limits, filing vacancies, filing fees. Shall these sections of the charter be amended for purposes of clarifying nonpartisan nature of capital seat, updating term provisions, establishing consistent procedures, and providing flexibility for the establishing of filing fees. And so the judge in this case said, nope, this is not clear. What do you make of this election result here?
Well, the election result, people, I can't get in their heads. They read it the way they wanted to read it. But the judge ruled, I believe, and it's in a 16-page ruling. I know you've seen it. It's the 3 terms that come to my mind are clearly and conclusively defective. That's a legal term, and that they don't meet the requirement, Florida statutes, for it being clear in its intents and purposes. And so I think what probably happened there on that one, although I wasn't in the judge's head either, but combining all of the sections of the charter amendment and encapsulating it in such a way that the judge ruled that it was defective, misleading, misleading and trying to hide the ball, I do believe comes into more into play. 2 and 3 are inconsequential, in my opinion, to a large degree. They were not big movers and shakers of changing things so much. 4, 5, and 6 were the big amendments, if you will. So I really paid attention to the, not to say that these as well, but the judge has ruled them all. 1 and 5 were ruled to be not misleading, not defective. So, but since number 5 was challenged in the ballot language by the watch group, the official those votes will not be certified until a legal conclusion is reached. So, yeah.
So let's get right into number 3 then after we
Sure.
take a look at this. This is a little bit more of a split. We talked a little bit offline before this just about how precincts 41, 27, and 32 were a little bit more in the no camp. You can see the separate exclaves up there by the golf course voted yes, as did the waterfront-ish kind of or sound front-ish areas. And then precinct 42 had a total of 11 voters. So make of what you will there in precinct 42. This is referendum number 3, change the process to remove council members. This is really another administrative one, so we won't spend too much time on this one either. They said 574 yes, 484 no. Again, these are not binding, but the judge is, because the judge said, hey, these are not clear enough for the voter to understand what the intent is. And you can see there as well this little dichotomy we have here. But let's get into the real meat of these, the ones that I think people are really going to want to talk about. Referendum number 4. Essentially, the referendum, if passed, because these haven't been certified yet, would require Fort Walton Beach to always have a city-operated fire and police department by charter. But this is what the ballot language said over here. Shall the city charter provisions relating to city officers and their duties be amended to eliminate outdated language, provide clearer descriptions, and enhance the efficiency of the city's daily operations? So looking at these results, you can see that the voters that voted in the affirmative. Do you think that that's what happened, or how do you feel about the results that you're seeing here?
Well, I believe that the judge called it right, and I believe this one was the most concerning to me in the deceptive language, misleading. Misleading was one. Hiding the ball usually refers to taxes, but it's misleading for sure.
Did I lose you there, Payne?
What language is know about it? Yeah, who doesn't want administrative efficiency? I wrote it this morning and shared it with the group that, it's kind of like asking voters, do you want a Dairy Queen, yes or no? Finding out that it wasn't really about a Dairy Queen, it was about law enforcement. So,
Got it.
it's just, that was the most egregious deception of it was there. I'm glad it was so clearly deceptive. Had nothing, it didn't even mention the police department, but that was the heart of it. So clearly off the intents and purposes. And so the language on it hide that from voters. So yes, if voters are asked, do you want a Dairy Queen, yes or no? It will be absolutely yes. And obviously, if they're asked, do you want administrative efficiency in your government? The answer is going to be yes as well. Now, if they're asked, do you want to forever enshrine and unlimit the expenses and cost of a police department? That might gather some different thoughts or discussions. So I believe that it's dead in the water based on the judge's ruling, and I can't believe that should it come to it. And obviously, that's part of the things that's going on right now on the inside, if you will. Negotiations and legal wranglings are going on between the watch group and the city on what's the next step. And I don't think there's any next step that leads to number 4 ever becoming reality, being accepted or overturned by a judge. So they kind of did it to themselves, in my opinion, by making the language so clearly deceptive that anybody can see it when they really take the time, if they care to take the time to go and look at the language, compare it to the ordinance.
Well, I think that's a very interesting point, because I'm looking at the total returns. 56% said yes, and you said this is basically like voting for Dairy Queen, right? So there, for some reason, 44% of people all of a sudden said they didn't want to vote for Dairy Queen. So to me, that says a lot of people must have read the amendment and voted against it.
That's a possibility for sure, and that's the unfortunate part about deceptive language, misleading language, is that you can't really tell you can't make out the intent and purpose of the voter. The judge ruled it that way, so it was deemed defective and misleading, hiding the ball. So there's no path forward in my mind, whether it's with the current judge overturning himself during the permanent injunction, or if the city chooses to go the route of appealing that to go before 3 other judges that would think that the ballot language clearly expressed to voters what they were about to do. If you want to enshrine the police department, make it simple and clear and straightforward. Don't hide it under administrative efficiency.
So just looking at these maps, and these, by the way, to the viewers out there, are going to start looking very similar. Well, I guess not totally similar. They're going to look more similar after this. But there's this split here on the Cinco Bayou, kind of the south end of Cinco Bayou. Do you know why that would be?
Where are you? I'm looking at the map. Are you talking about in 38?
So I'm saying like 41, 27, and 32 tend to vote very similarly.
41, 27, and 32. Got it. I see them
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So I see them as like almost voting as a block. Is there like some sort of like demographic or structural reason that they would vote more that way?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So moving on to the next one, referendum number 5. You can see that I summarized this one as should the city council and mayor receive compensation? And that's pretty much what the judge said this said as well. So I think they were going to keep this one. Am I mistaken?
Well, no, you're not mistaken. There is a little nuance there, I guess you could say, because I was a little unclear on it for a bit too. But what the reason it can't be certified is because the lawsuit by the watch group
Okay.
initially challenged its language too. The only ballot measure, a referendum that was not challenged by the watch group lawsuit was number 1. So
Understood.
everything else, whether, pro or con, good or bad, yes or no, that they were challenged, so they remain under the same non-release. Although I've heard, and it appears as though the uncertified but total vote will be released sometime probably on Friday. So
Okay.
voters will see the total numbers, yeses and nos on all of them. And I think the theory is that that will somehow guide council on appealing or not. And I'm hopeful another outcome happens. I'm hopeful that the council will recognize what the judge had said, understand whether they agree fully or partly or some or none. That it should probably be revisited, maybe under a new council after November, if indeed it ever gets revisited. But a judge has made it clear that they weren't clear, that they were misleading and tried to hide the ball. So, hey, sorry, we missed that. Let's give it another try at another date, TBD. Let's press on with business. We got business before us to do.
Got it. And so let's move on to referendum number 6, which I would argue is probably the one that had the most, I don't know, coverage, for lack of a better term. This 3% increase cap on the budget
Right,
essentially is the big piece of this. The
right.
official ballot language, I'm going to pull it up here. Shall the city charter be amended to repeal Section 35, limitation on annual budget expenditures, which limits annual increases in the budget and which does not limit increases to property tax? So again, the watch group kind of said, this is part of their lawsuit. And so I think that's part of why this thing got held up, if I'm not mistaken. But it did not, according to the election day returns. Now, you got to remember, everybody, that if you're just joining us, that this doesn't include the mail in ballots. This doesn't include the early voting results. Yes loses on this one rather narrowly, about 110 votes in between in the turnout, the day of turnout. Is that about what you expected, Payne?
One vote would have been enough for me. Obviously, we've got, for my preferences, like you said, we've got the mail in and the early voting. And as just we said, I think by Friday, those unofficial, uncertified numbers will be in. And apparently that's going to give council and staff, or maybe even the legal powers that be, some, writing on the wall, reading of the tea leaves, and help maybe guide their legal approach to the watch group's lawsuit.
Understood. Well, those are all the referenda. I think that's how it's done. My Greek's a
Mhm.
little rusty.
Right.
But any final thoughts on the election night, the results therein?
No, it's a step and a measure that had to be taken. Um, I'm glad the watch group stepped in to take the legal actions that were necessary to highlight what we believed and many in the community believed was misleading, unclear, deceptive language. As you know, I personally don't believe they should have ever been there, just simply based on the system, the charter review system that they came out of. Would also point out that proudly, I guess I could say that 5 and 6, referendum 5 and 6, were two that were previously before voters, November of 24. They voted in that general election, and I think the numbers were 56 up to 62% approved of the watch group's ballot measures or the ballot language that was placed on there that placed the cap, that removed the compensation, made it a volunteer position. So I'm excited about the future of the next council members, whether it's the existing ones or new ones that show up on the scene. They're going to know that they are going to be volunteers serving their community that they love and care about. And I think that that could, it's nice to know that that will remove any question from the citizens, taxpayers, voters, whatever you want to call it, that their representatives are working for anything other than the love of the community. They're not being paid, and they're not being, their family's health insurance is not being covered because, I don't want to be associated with that. I'm in the same group. Mr. Walker, he's just running so he can get paid or so he can get insurance at taxpayer expense. I don't want that on me. I want my motives to be known and to believe that it's out for the interest of the taxpayers and the love of the community that I have a business in, I have a home in, and I just love the community. And that's why I'm serving. And I look forward to serving openly as a volunteer in the position and serving with others who will be volunteers up there with me. It's a in many organizations been a part of and member of currently. And I tell you, a group of volunteers, it's an incredible, it's incredible what they can accomplish when they're a group of volunteers serving from their heart. So I look forward to that. And
Understood.
that
Well,
budget cap being the other one that was such a catalyst in the community initially, that got people to the city hall, got them out into the community. That process of getting, I think it was eventually a little over 1,500 voters sign the ballot language. That's what I look forward to also seeing in the future, is that when a community group, a community special interest, and then special interest can be a group of taxpayers, it can be a group of voters, business owners, whatever it is, they can't just come before council and say, hey, we want you to do something for us, please do it. We're going to recommend that if there's any special interest groups in the community that want to have council operate in a certain way, that they go out to the community, they go knock on doors as we did. They get the required signatures, which is 10% of the of voting population. So I think that's still around 1,500. Take them up to Paul Lux. He certifies those are certified voters. Bring those petitions before council, much like Travis Smith did back then, and I will be the first to raise my hand and say, the people have spoken. They want this ballot language on the upcoming ballot. Let's do it. So special interests that come before us and just without petitioning the people, without getting the word, the direction from we the people, I'm not interested in facilitating that change of government.
very
There's one
good.
of those
And
on the horizon coming up, so looking out for that. But that 3%, it's going to cause this body of council, staff, city manager to firmly adjust their perceptions of how business is done, how it might be done differently. And, that charter amendment that is in our charter that this number 6 was looking to overturn, it's got some options in there. If a financial problem comes about, there's a way to go back to the people and ask, hey, I need some more money. We need some more money because of X. They have to explain it and say, this is why we need your money. So I think it's just going to change the operations, and that's what the people were looking for. They're like, hey, I don't know what to tell you guys, but the budget has been out of control. We've asked you to slow it down. They didn't. This is the body back then in 19 and 20 thereabouts. They didn't listen. So the people, we the people, put our foot down and said, okay, you won't listen. We'll put our foot down. We're going to put a cap on you. And now I know it's different. It's causing operations to be different, but that's what happens. That's what happens when you don't listen to your bosses. They're going to put some restrictions on you or limits on you and say, hey, we want you to change your ways. So the people have asked us to change our ways, and I'm looking forward to working through any problems and issues that may arise from it, but also really looking forward to the new perspectives that'll have to be applied to spending the people's money.
Payne Walker, councilman over at Fort Walton Beach. Sir, if your constituents want to get at you, how can they reach you?
Payne Walker at FWB.org or my cell phone 850-621-6756.
Very good. Well, sir, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your perspective on these initial unofficial results. A lot to be seen, and it looks like we're gonna have a busy week all the way up till Friday.